All right, it's time to break down UFC 226. Man, this is going to be a doozy. Champion versus champion. Stipe Miocic will be defending his heavyweight belt against Daniel Cormier, the light heavyweight champion. Both of these guys coached on tough. There hasn't been much friction. There's a lot of respect, but both of them are arguably at the top of their division in the history of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So this is really going to be an iconic moment for one of the two on Saturday. John Morgan, what goes down?
It's a legit super fight, right? I mean, this is something special, and it's pretty cool that we're going to get to see it. Picking the fight's a little tougher, man, than knowing that we're just going to enjoy it. But I think the big thing here, first of all, is that I don't think the size is going to be a huge issue. You know, if you're saying, you know, a heavyweight against a light heavyweight, I mean, we know what Cormier has done in the past, what he's done at heavyweight. So I don't think the size is going to be a big issue. But I do have trouble seeing Cormier being able to repeatedly get Stipe to the floor and to keep him there. And I think that's what he's got to do. I don't think this goes well if this is a straight boxing match between these two gentlemen. I think Cormier is relentless. I think his wrestling is fantastic. But I just don't see him being able to take Stipe down over and over repeatedly and being able to keep him there. For that reason, I think Stipe is eventually going to be able to get to his feet and to be able to use his hands there. And I see a late TKO in Stipe's favor.
Yes.
Coin flip of a matchup. It's very tough. What I'm going to lean on is their preparation and the guys they have to help them prepare for these fights. If I look at Daniel Cormier's camp, you have a guy in Cain Velasquez that could probably mimic Stipe Miocic quite a bit. I'm not so sure there's somebody in Stipe's camp that can mimic the wrestling that Daniel Cormier is going to bring in. So because of that one little factor, I'm going to lean towards Daniel Cormier. However, John is right. When he does get that takedown, you better have a plan for what you're going to do with it, because you cannot do that 5 times.
And, you know, as close as it is, the odds are a little bit greater than one would think. I mean, we're describing coin flip type results and matchups, but in reality, Miocic is the favorite at about minus 255, 265, depending on where you want to shop them. Cormier comes back at about plus 195, plus 205, again, depending on where you want to shop them. I mean, this is two of the best to ever do it. But one thing that stood out to me in the Miocic fight, even Miocic-Ngannou fight, even though he beat him, and even though Ngannou took the criticism for huffing and puffing and, you know, coming up a little short on the cardio department, so was Stipe. You know what I mean? And Cormier has a pace. Now, Cormier, I've seen him in 5-round fights. Also tires, but it seemed like he still can dig deep and still seems a little bit more of the Daniel Cormier that starts off the fight, but maybe at a 70-65% mark, because obviously they're out there, they're exhausted, whereas Stipe had actually probably gotten down below 50%. So I'm thinking late in the 4th, 5th round is where this fight will get decided, and I'm leaning towards Daniel Cormier. Dan, Tom?
It's tough. It's tough to see either guys finish each other, and I can see why Stipe's the favorite. I was rolling with Stipe maybe all the way up until now, and not just because he's the bigger man. I don't think size is going to necessarily be a factor, but you look at it, I see where the odds makers in public are coming from. They're both good boxers. They're both good wrestlers. Perhaps the guy with a little more momentum, more proven against heavier competition, maybe that favorite should be Stipe, but it's not always holding a guy down that gets you tired. Now, the criticism, you can say, well, Stipe did get tired against Ngannou, but he was having to hold a big guy down, and sure, there was some of that, but Ngannou wasn't active, and he wasn't offering a lot. And there was also another factor where you can actually get more tired if you're a big guy going with a smaller guy, especially in grappling scenarios, especially if you're in a grappling practice where you're not allowed to put out your partner like you are in an MMA fight. If you're forced in a dog fight, like if these two guys are, because let's be honest, both guys can get each other down, but both guys are going to have a hard time holding each other down. They can both ice each other on the feet, but this is going to be a dog fight through and through. Whose cardio is going to look better? That's where I was looking forward to too. And DC has gotten tired, but they've been in log fights, they've been in tough fights, and he's went through and won a lot of those fights, like Gustafsson, another tall opponent. I feel like DC can get this in a dog fight on the decision and the scorecards if he can avoid getting knocked out.
All right, there you have it. I'm sure we might be swaying back and forth on this one, because this one's going to be epic. UFC 226 going down this week, International Fight Week. That is the main event. Stipe Miocic defending his heavyweight belt against Daniel Cormier, the light heavyweight champ.